Hey everyone, we're back, and today we're going to be talking a bit about the future of AI and how we can use AI, specifically AI agents, to improve our marketing and sales. How we can utilize those new technologies and those changes within AI and within those processes, and what that means for the kind of development that we're going to be doing going forwards. So I'm James. I'm one of the co-founders of Hubstart, and we're an agency that focuses on technology and development and using AI in a RevOps environment to achieve your RevOps goals. And I'm here with my co-founder Scott, who's going to be taking us through a couple of different concepts around how AI agents, AI agentic workflows work.
Awesome. Thanks, James. So let's just start by diving into all of this. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep.
Awesome. So I want to start with a little bit of terminology. There's no real standard in terminology at the moment, but people are generally talking about two types of agents. One, we're talking about intelligent agents versus agentic workflows. So intelligent agents are normally something which is acting autonomously, which is kind of running by itself. So it's a running longing application, and it's designed to optimize an objective, to achieve a goal. So we're going to look at some of those. So an example is with social media, bots that are chatting, posting, and improving with an objective of like lead generation. So it's something that's kind of got an objective. A more practical example is vacuum cleaners. So we're talking about Roombas and things like that. So if you need to kind of visualize what we're talking about, that's a good example. And the other technology, which is just a type of technology which fits in these intelligent agents, is reinforcement learning, which is some technology around how these things learn or play computer games or how they kind of optimize. So we like to classify intelligent agents, where agentic workflows are strategies for multiple interactions to achieve goals. And we'll go over that. So agentic workflows is normally more specialized in the large language model space, where intelligent agents is kind of combining large language models and some type of reinforcement learning or goal-driven learning. So let's just look at some type of intelligent agents. We normally talk about things that can observe and simulate and predict. But if we get into a more kind of formal definition, so an agent is something that's learning or a decision maker. So it's something that's kind of acting on its own and from an environment is learning. It has an action. So at any point, it has an action to make. So a decision needs to be made by the agent. So, generally an agent will have limited decisions, 3, 4, even more, and it needs to make a decision about how to perform an action. It has a state, which is the environment. So we can look at kind of information around that. Rewards. So it's some type of reward. So let's say it's either going to be a positive or negative, sorry. So it can improve on its mistake. So an example would be, I created a post, no one liked my post, no one commented on my post, so I might give that post a negative reward because there's no action that happened on it. Where if the agent was to discover posts that people like, then it would have positive feedback, and it would be able to use that feedback to be able to improve itself. It's policies. So a policy is the strategy or plan of action the agency follows. So this is really getting into what it's set out. So for example, if for example you say lead generation is a strategy that you want to achieve, then you might want, the bot might not go actually after the person. It might go after someone's network or something like that, knowing that the chances of a positive lead in the future will result by doing something different earlier on. So that's about finding the different strategies of how to achieve the best result, which is not always in a straight line. So when I mean straight line, if an agent was trying to get leads, going off, doing a cold prospecting, sending a message may not be the right way to get to a decision maker. It may be finding people, finding influencers, creating a relationship, creating the rapport before approaching a lead prospect. So I'm just using that as an example of a type of agent and how that policy would work. Value, an estimator of the long-term benefits in a given state or performance. So here it's estimating probability of something to happen. So going back to the example of lead generation, you need to look at long-term value versus the short-term value. So this is, once I was saying, it's kind of like a chess game. Like there's all these strategies, but you need to play multiple pieces and not just a single piece to get the results that you want. So generally, they're the environment, the elements of an intelligent agent. Some may or may not have this, but they're kind of all put into place to create an optimal result. So how do we use agents personally? We're using them for deep research on people and customers. So we have agents that aren't necessarily so objective focused, but they're trying to find out information about people's networks, who influences them, what is their customer problems, what is their personal situation, what is their emotion, what is their psychometrics, these kind of things, elements coming together, and agents are out there collecting that information intelligently. So we're not telling it, "Oh, go through this." It's able to read someone's profile, work out, look at it, and not using math, but using things like LLMs to make decisions. Okay, this person is writing comments, so they're influencing this person. So now I need to go research this other person to understand. And an example may be, it could be like an Elon Musk, or it could be Bill Gates, a big influencer, or it could be something simpler like a coworker, or it could be someone else inside the company, which that person is respecting a lot, or even a competitor maybe that person is analyzing a lot. So being able to collect all that information, optimizing content. So that's obviously using discovered information to optimize content, researching on topics, advising and improving on a specific zone. Not quite sure what I was talking about there, but it's probably just more around looking at the whole pictures of, and I kind of have this here, what is the competitors, what is the person, what is the customer behavior kind of elements. So in traditional, you look up reinforcement learning, and reinforcement learning is a technology that's been around, but generally it's starting from zero, where intelligent agents combined with LLMs have a much bigger advantage because there's a lot of knowledge already existing in LLMs, and the agents can make a lot of assumptions. So this technology has been around for a long time, but data has been one of the issues. And now, because of LLMs, we're able to kind of bridge the gap between, not knowing anything about subject matter, where we can kind of start and make certain assumptions to kind of help intelligent agents work more effectively.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of super interesting evolution from unstructured versus structured data. This kind of comes into this, like the days that we'd be using data scrapers to try and scrape data on people's LinkedIn profiles, things like that, trying to just build a large set of data that we can then use for prospecting, where we pull that in, but the data quality is it could be quite poor because we just have to use a very dumb data scraper to just take what's there as it is. So it's really cool that we can now use this technology to get more structured data, more relevant data, have the AI making decisions about what is and isn't relevant, and bring that to the forefront, which, as we can see here, then we can then bring into our HubSpot or other CRM processes. So for instance, if we are scraping data about somebody's network and what their network is talking about, then we can sort of have the sort of the critical agent rate that data, depending on its intent and like how significant that is, and then pass that data into, in this case, HubSpot, in a very clear, structured way that HubSpot can act upon. So, I mean, we all do workflows based on, or a lot of us do workflows based on things like buyer personas, where you're putting people into buckets yourselves. That could be based on simple data such as demographic data, but this is a much more powerful way of getting more comprehensive data, boiling that down into the key essentials, and then using that to personalize the content we're sending out and make a higher impact with that.
Right. And I think something that this is changing is that we need to think more about an event-driven model in things like HubSpot. So what we want the events to be. So I'll give you a very simple example. Like if you have someone on social media, let's say we're in the prospecting or the top of funnel space. If you have someone in social media and they're suddenly literally saying, how do I do X, Y, Z? Or I'm having a problem with X, Y, Z, which directly relates to your product or service, right? That would be an example of a direct trigger. This person has the problem. Feed this straight. The agents will make that decision. Is this problem fit with the product or service I'm selling? Yes or no? How does it fit? Okay, let's feed that information to the unstructured to structured information. Like, hey, there's an attribute problem type, and it's telling you out of the 5 problem types that you might have selected that, hey, this customer has this problem type. Boom, fit it into your HubSpot and trigger off the next workflow. It's the event. Something's happened in the market. This is a new record. You need to action this because this person's hot. And between the time someone has a problem and they solve the problem is going to have a small window. So it gives you a good opportunity to react to it. And I think the same, it also works beyond that. So we can see that if there's a strong influencer talking about a topic and they're within your network or someone you follow, then we're going to know that there could be a whole collection of people which could be alerted to that problem which your product or service might fit. And obviously competitor markets, like, potential people that fit into your scope of prospecting criteria or your target criteria. Now a competitor and not just competitor, could be a government, could be a regulation, could be anything that now you're observing, which may impact someone with a solution you solve. So this is, you're setting up the framework around that, you're setting up the objective, and the intelligent agents is collecting the information, knowing what you need in your HubSpot or whatever to trigger those events. Anything else to add there, James?
No, that's a really good example.
And this obviously works more than just prospecting, right? You can monitor your existing clients for upsells and other opportunities. So let's swap gears. There is definitely an overlap between the intelligent agents and the agentic agents, but we're going to talk about 4 strategies you can use. So right now, one of the biggest issues is that people are using like ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever with an approach called zero shot. Zero shot means you write a description, you say, write me a cold prospecting email, right? And my company does X, Y, Z. You hit send, it generates you something which is average, or it's okay, but it works, right? But like any human or any company, you would normally go and say, hey, can someone review this? Can someone improve this? It's not necessarily going to give you the best result the first time. And that also applies to LLM. So we're going to talk about strategies to go from like a low quality or average quality to a very high quality standard using LLMs. And there's a whole bunch of benchmarks, and I reference a couple in this presentations. But in sales and marketing, it's, you know, if I'm going to write a cold prospecting email, we'll go back to that. I mean, I'm going to ask different people for their opinion, right? Because my perspective, my vision or my angle or my view of the company could be different to someone else. You know, what is the message I want to communicate? What is the call to action? What should I be using to pressure that user? Should I use gifting, or what other strategy? So there's a combination of strategy, content, and tone all wrapped into it. And I'm going to need feedback to make sure I haven't missed it if I'm about to send this to thousands of people. So let's go into the first one. We call this reflection, right? So reflection is, in this example, please write me a cold prospecting email about my service XYZ. Now, the AI doesn't know much about your service other than what you wrote in this description. So it's going to come back and write, sure, dear, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to create you something that sounds all right, but it's the same email that that person's getting from 1,000 other vendors. There's nothing going to be standing out on that. So the next stage would be to get the AI to act as a critical reviewer. Check the following for style, correctness, and sense of urgency. So, okay, the bot's going to come back and say, email can be improved by adding, and it's going to come with recommendations. Now you take those recommendations and you feed it back to the bot, and you tell the bot, hey, can you improve my email based on the feedback that was given that you think is correct, right? And you can keep cycling through this over and over again. So you can act as a marketing manager first, and then you might want to act as a sales manager. Then you want to act as a customer. Then you might want to ask it to say why would someone reject this email as a customer with this persona? And you might want to then say, the tech team has this tech specs. How can I include this in my email? Or review this email and see if the benefits are highlighted, kind of thing. So you can kind of keep combining a sequence of information over and over again.
Yeah, it's literally functioning pretty much the same way as your team would. Like a lot of marketers that have hesitation towards AI for content, it's really around the zero shot approach that they have that hesitation, because as Scott says, you don't want to produce something that doesn't stand out. Every company has their own voice and needs to stand out from the crowd and be unique. And if they're using the same tools to generate the same content, then that's going to make that harder. And that's why, as a team, you'll of course get together, bounce your different ideas around each other. Well, the AI tools here are essentially doing the same thing. We can have multiple different AI tools taking these different roles, with their own backgrounds, their own research, their own data models that are driving them, and playing off each other to come up with something that's optimized and improved against these different ideas, the same as you would as a team with all your different ideas and backgrounds.
Yep, that's exactly right. And in software, we have something called a unit test. And the idea of a unit test is to make sure code runs in a certain way. And especially if the code has failed in the past, you want to create a unit test to check to see in the future the code is going to work correctly. Now, the same applies in sales and marketing. So let's go to the HubSpot. You might go to your HubSpot, you're going to look at your deals, and you're going to look at your failed deals. I forget what they're called, James. You remind me here.
Your close lost.
Close lost. There we go. Close lost. And you might want to take all that feedback, right, and get them to act as a unit test. This is a customer that I wanted, but I lost the customer. Does my message appeal to these reasons? Does this message appeal to this person? And get the AI to act as a critical reviewer as well. So that could be based on your close lost. Um, it may be acting as a persona, but get it to act in a negative way, like a very tough customer. Uh, and also, if you're looking at different kind of cultures, genders, social questions, get it to act as a critical reviewer on those people as well. So it's just going to allow you to keep improving, and any kind of criticism or thing that you agree with, you can take that criticism, take the email or the content, add that criticism, and get the AI to refine your content over and over again. So generally here we're kind of looking at it as a linear process where we're saying act as this person, act as this person, act as this person. Here we're kind of looking at it in terms of code, like this failed, this is the reason, would this fail again? Would this fail again? And if the customer was this kind of way, would they respond or not respond? Or why wouldn't they respond to this message? So, it's just building up all those insights for you to try to get to a point that's going to be, you know, above what you're going to get from a zero shot. And the benchmarks that I've seen online, we're talking about from, with problems that do have kind of scoring with them, 40% with a zero shot approach up to 80-90% with this kind of methodology of reiterating your content over and over again. I think James already mentioned trying different models is a fantastic way to get variance on your results as well. And I've put in a couple of readings here that you can go and look up and find out about how they've gone on and strategized. All right, so the second one is tool usage. So tool usage is in ChatGPT, and I can't say about the others, Copilot or whatever. You have the ability to enhance it, and the way you can enhance the result is by giving it functions, which is called tool usage. So tools can be an action or an evaluation. It can be really anything that can be expressed in code. So for example, my favorite is like a financial company. You want to give a quote to a customer maybe in a chatbot or something like that, then you can start introducing a piece of code which will give you estimates of loan values. So you could say the inputs are credit score, time in business, and annual revenue. Let's just choose those three. So the bot itself, let's say the customer comes, I want to get a loan, and they're like, okay, what are your, what type of loan are you listing, blah, blah, blah. And the customer says, okay, can you give me a quote? The bot will be like, sure. Can you give me these following details? If it doesn't have the right details, then it's going to keep asking the user to get the right details. Once it does, the AI can automatically start pulling on an API to get the right information to be able to express that back into the user. And you can also tell it the way to write it. So, okay, here's the result. They're going to get a loan. It's going to be 25% over 1 year, paid weekly, whatever. And then you can also kind of get it to express the benefits of that as well. So tool usage is not just calculations, it's anything that's informational. You might get it to look up sporting teams, you might get it to look up latest news, you might get it to look up weather in a specific location and other information. So any information which is either real time, calculated, or an action which can happen, so the ChatGPT can use. So on a content point of view, you might have an API which gets the latest information about your pricing structure or your products, or very, very specific information which you don't want to leave to chance that the model learns in a generic way. But if you have a specific answer, then tool usage allows specific inputs to give a specific output. So, James, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and it's definitely a change from how we'd have built these kind of integrations before for people and these kind of custom quote builders, for instance. Previously, we'd have to have defined all of this logic in a much more of a linear way, with a lot more detail, and it'll be more prone to failure. We'd have to have very specific inputs from the user to be able to give the desired output. But this certainly makes it a lot simpler to build, but it also means that it's more flexible for the customer because they can have more of a conversation. Say if you're using an AI chatbot, then it can have a conversation with an AI chatbot. It can request things from your company, and then using all of these predefined inputs that we've given and these predefined instructions about how to interpret and use that information, then we can provide something meaningful to the user. So that's on its simplest form, quite helpful with things like AI support chatbots, where you sort of load all of your resources, and then rather than where it used to work, where it just looks for keywords and tries to return results like a search engine, it can be more intelligent in what it brings up and use inputs from the user on whether that was helpful or not, as you've often seen in support chatbots, to self-optimize itself and provide more up-to-date and useful content. That's just going to be a much better experience for your prospects and for your customers.
Yeah, and I think it's, I don't want to get too fixated with the chatbots, because you can also use this in content as well. So if you're getting emails, or your salespeople are, you have a lead flow that includes things like a quote, or includes specific specifications, or includes something that's very like what we call a structured data with, like, it's a hard fact, like there's no variance there. There's nothing, you can embed that into your flow. So if you have a sales flow, they need a quote, then there's no reason why the ChatGPT cannot go off, look up the right information from an email content, specialize the result, and then respond with the right email to get the exact numbers that you need. So as long as it knows where to find the tools and interact with them, it can work off that. So, and that would just be something like a billing system, or maybe an e-commerce system, or whatever you have, or other systems that you have internally, where you can start combining your sales and marketing with these factual kind of information. So let's move on. Next one is the planning agents. So this one is, it's a strategy which, it's got its pros and cons. It's quite experimental, but this is when you're starting to put different models and chaining them together, and this will get better over time. So a little bit different than the tool example I gave you before, because it's passing data from one model to the next model to the next model. So let's go through an example. Let's say you get a cold prospect. That cold prospect can then be passed on to, we're going to use the intelligent agent here to go collect information about a person. So first we get the cold prospect. It's like, okay, go research this cold prospect. So it's going to pass on the instructions to another bot to start collecting information. That information can be returned, and then you might want to pass it on to a model. So there's some psychometrics there from using like the Ocean model or other psychometric, I think it's like, I forget what it is, the different psychometric models that you might do. I know Ocean and I can't think of the other one, but there's models there, and it's going to extract and estimate the personality. It's going to estimate certain emotional ways of talking to that person. So it's gone done the research. It takes that information, and could pass on to a psychometric, then it may extract topic clusters for that person. So now we have the research, we have psychometrics, we're going to pass that into a clustering model to look at, what they could potentially buy and what you have. So we could start clustering that person. Then we might want to pass that into something like a neural net to forecast the likelihood of buying based on previous experience for people like this. And then it might generate a communication approach. So maybe it's actually generating a workflow specific to that user and how it's going to talk to it and the tone and the metadata that can then be passed to something like a LLM to generate a message and send a message. So this is the type of planning agents where it becomes a fairly complex sequence of different models to enrich, enhance, to convert information. One other example there would be if you're into image recognition, or there's aspects of images within your sales and marketing or customer support flows, then most LLMs aren't necessarily doing image recognition particularly well. So you might want to pass that on to other kind of LLMs or different models in your planning sequence to extract information, which then can be used by LLMs or other type of models.
Yeah, it's really amazing how much efficiency saving you can get from putting a process in place like this. I mean, just taking this one for example, where basically is doing business development in an efficient AI-driven way. Like you get somebody doing this manually, um, either they're just not going to have the capacity to do it, or they're not going to go to the degree that AI ever could in what information it gathers and how it factors that into a decision. So in many ways, I'd expect like AI to be more comprehensive and deliver better results in the long run than a human could do, unless they're really spending time going through an individual level doing these steps.
Yeah. And the last one, which it's very exciting, we're going to talk about, is called the multi-agent. The multi-agent concept is that you pretend to be a company. You pretend to be a CEO, a marketing team, a sales team, a product team. But here, there's no real order. So in the planning, we're normally talking about a sequence of events. In the multi-agent environment, we're basically having different roles of people which are going to contribute to an idea. And then you're going to have your master bot. In this case, they'll be called the CEO, which is going to say, I'm happy with the solution or I'm not happy with the solution. So the discussions can keep on going. So you've got this kind of controlling bot, the CEO, and then you're going to be passing this information around to these other bots to get their feedback and the correction, and they're going to talk to each other to refine what you're going to do. So write me a content strategy around our new product XYZ. When you're happy, say done, right? That may be your initial command, and then it's going to go through, pretend you're the marketing team. This is kind of what you know as a marketing team. This is the customers we want to do. This is the SEO we've been focusing on. This is the research about the market. Okay, the sales team, they have very specific customers they want to get. So they have their version of objectives that they want to achieve. And the product team, they're thinking about it in terms of features, which need to be translated into benefits for customers within these different criteria. So the idea is that each little agent here will have its own objective. They're going to chat to each other. They're going to not necessarily agree until they refine a strategy. Once the strategy comes together, then it's going to output. So it's kind of like the first one, but in this case, we're giving it completely to the AI. So this is very experimental, and it could yield very good results. It could yield bad results, but it's definitely a strategy which we're going to see as the AI, as LLMs get better and better. It's probably going to produce better and better results. So this is kind of a way of self-learning, self-training, self-educating kind of models that we're going to see in sales and marketing. And it's just going to provide perspectives that um, we're just not going to necessarily get from humans, because it can just continually process the right. If it fails, you can rerun it, rerun it. And on the multi agents, there's a few things you can do. There's something called chat dev, which is doing something similar in the development space, but you can apply it to the sales and marketing space. So it's really going to be interesting going forwards. And as I said, it's new technology, and a lot of this is new technology. It's about the experimentation and investing in that experimentation, because the people that kind of embrace some of this technology are going to get results which um, you know I don't will go to a good level. And sales and marketing will have to learn how to use these agents in the future in the right way to get the results they need. Anything you want to add there,
All good
James?
for me.
Yeah. um, So how they can be used, improve results without zero shot. So, zero shot is just asking AI, just generate me content, and, it just hasn't really produced results that are really what people want. So, as I said, don't expect AI to be the magic bullet. It's going to need to be reviewed, to be feedback, to improve over time. Um, Agents in your company, these are going to be multi-purpose. So any effort you put into these agents, they can be used. Like, agents are just more than generating content. They can be used for reviewing, for refining, for criticizing, for performing actions. So it's interesting, because it's not just training models and teaching models is not just an effort that's lost. It can be reapplied over and over again in different use cases. So maybe it's the stage to get certain frameworks established is kind of time consuming, but once they're there, they can be reused, which is I think is an amazing thing and an exciting things. Agent frameworks allow you to really kind of extend HubSpot core functionality. We did this in our last video where, we talk about HubSpot. HubSpot's AI is really placed as a tool. It's a simple tool, and it's a good place to start. But Agent Frameworks is really going to allow you to extend your HubSpot or your CRM beyond that kind of information. And, over time, we've seen, as I mentioned earlier, compared to zero shot approach like you're going to have in HubSpot, agent frameworks are going to see in the benchmarks, we've seen things with complex problems performing results of 40%, but using these techniques going up to 90% results. So we're talking about results which are double on problems which can be quantified. So if that can be done in complex problems, in math problems, in coding problems, then it can be applied into marketing, sales, and customer support. So it's just about putting the effort and making sure that these agents deliver. And before I finish, I just want to special mention the ChatGPT 5. So ChatGPT 5 is going to be interesting because in some ways it's going to be encapsulating some of this technology. It's using, I believe it's called Strawberry now, which is the algorithm. And that's the ability to rationalize. So instead of just producing a result, it's going to try to rationalize. You could probably say something similar to like a multi-agent environment, but it's going to be critical on itself internally to try to produce the best result. So we can talk about the benchmarks for ChatGPT 3 being around 40% quality. If we talk about complex problem, ChatGPT 4 at 60% quality and some of the benchmarks I've seen. And then we're talking about something that can rationalize. So those models will be slower, but it's heading towards an agent style of framework within its algorithms to really produce much better results. But like anything, it's the quality of how things are expressed, how the inputs are to get the outputs that you need as part of this process.
Cool, thank you, Scott. So I hope this has been helpful to everyone in really appreciating the breadth of what you can do with AI in terms of RevOps goals across your whole funnel. And this technology is evolving very quickly, and we as an agency are really focusing on keeping up to date on that and like working out the best strategies and the ways to leverage AI to achieve RevOps goals across marketing, sales, and success. So if you see the value as we do in this technology and you want to learn more about how we can apply that to your business and get some help with implementing that in the right way, then feel free to reach out to us. We'll put the link in the description for my meeting calendar so that you can have a chat with me. And we'll talk about your business and how we can take this technology and use it to accelerate you. So hope you give us a like and subscribe if you find this useful, and we'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks. See you next video.